yeah, sometimes we'll feel alone. In a second, I'll be right there. Turn around, let it rain. Turn around and let it rain on me. Don't you be afraid. Just follow me. You don't need no space. Just follow me. Like a mirror, you reflect me. Like a Friday night on the weekend, I feel blessed and free. I just don't want this moment to end. But now you say you gotta go. Baby, why you gotta go? Like a mirror, you reflect me. I just don't want this. I just don't want this moment to end. Jump into that car tonight. I'm not leaving without a fight. Now you're always on my mind.
Turn around, we will be alright.
Don't you be afraid.
Just follow me.
You don't need no space. Just follow me. Like a mirror, you reflect me. Like a Friday night on the weekend, I feel blessed and free. I just don't want this moment to end. But now you say you gotta go. Baby, why you gotta go? Like a mirror, you reflect me. I just don't want this. I just don't want this moment to end. I just don't want this. I just don't want this moment to end. If you ever feel alone, 'cause yeah, sometimes we'll feel alone. In a second, I'll be right there. Turn around, let it rain. Turn around and let it rain on me.
Oh my god, that music is so freaking loud in my ear. I don't know what is going on. Holy shiza. Hey there, Hellhounds. It's Hades, and we are back for another Sunday stream. Happy Pride Month. I hope you're all enjoying it. If you're watching, which I do see some of you watching, make sure that you do tell me where you're watching from and say hello, because I love to see that shit. So, we have got Brian from Texas watching. Thank you so much, Brian, for saying hello. Y'all just jump on. We're going to have a really good conversation tonight. Tonight's topic is Colorado Leatherfest. We are bringing back the class of 2023, all the competitors that ran for Mr. Leather Colorado and Master Slave Colorado, back to kind of talk about the competition, their experience, and what they plan to do afterwards. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into things. So welcome, everyone.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, welcome. So I'm really appreciative that you all are taking time out of your Sunday to come join me for this live stream. I'm really excited to really hash out like what we went through, the living hell that it was for the however long we were preparing for, and getting into all the fun stuff that you all are doing afterwards. So we're going to just take a few minutes here to introduce everybody. Let's go ahead and start off with Jeff.
My name is Jeff. I have been part of the community off and on since 2007. I am the founder of Mile High Fisters here in Denver, Colorado. I am part of the Denver Boys of Leather and the Rocky Mountain Leather Alliance. And I also am the event chair for Back Alley Denver, which is our big fetish ball that happens at the end of the year. And I'm also on the board of directors for Guild of Deviated Standards, which is another event that happens in August as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to scoot on over to Blind Dancer. Blind Dancer, go ahead and introduce
Hi.
yourself.
So I've been in the community since 2011, moved to Denver a couple years ago. I'm in a spiritually based master slave dynamic. Unfortunately, my vassal couldn't be here tonight. She's working, but she'll be, sending her thoughts. Um, and I'm, interested in educating. I'm interested in building a world where we can treat each other with love and respect and relate in the way that's best for us. So I like talking about relationships.
Awesome. And then last but not least, Master Castle and Slave Shy. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you very much. So I'm Master Castle. I've been in the community for about 9 years now, member of Voodoo Leatherworks. I'm on the board for the Colorado Little Scouts Troop 151, and I help this one out, my wonderful slave, with their endeavors with teaching, which I think I'll let you go ahead and take.
Hi. I've been in the community for about 9 years as well. I co-host P3 with one of my best friends, which is the Positions, Protocols, and Presentations class that is hosted at Voodoo once a month. And I am the president and co-founder of Colorado Little Scouts, as well as I act as the go-between for the Leather Contingent and Pueblo Pride.
Awesome. Thank you. And for those of you who are watching that don't know me, my name is Hades. I'm an adult content creator here online in the internet. I've been in the community for about 5-6 years. So I'm the newbie of the group. I do a lot of pup play stuff, and I just love being a king conversationalist. So that's what we do here on this channel. We bring kings from all over the place, all different types of kings, and we have conversations about them. And so we're really, really excited to have you all here join us today. There's a lot of you watching right now, which makes me a little nervous, but I love to see it. I love to see it. So let's go ahead and jump into some questions. This is a live Q&A, y'all. So if you have questions about the competition or what these people are doing out in the community, feel free to drop them in the comments. We will see them. I'll bring your comment up on the screen and we'll try to address it. Okay? All right. So the first question that I have for everyone, and I think we all pondered this question because we thought it was something the judges would ask, is what made you decide to run for a leather title in the first place? And anybody can go. There's no particular order. So if you just raise your hand, if you have an answer right now, like I will pop you on to the screen. Sure. Go for it, Jeff.
So I decided to run for the title for a few reasons. One of them is I am in sobriety, and so as I started my journey into recovery, I have decided to put myself out of my comfort zone and try to challenge myself in many ways. This is just another way for me to do that and to see what I am capable of doing. And also, I wanted to run because I want to be part of the rich, thick history of IML after this journey. But I also wanted to see what I could do in this community and try to build a stronger community here locally. And one way to do that was to create a platform for other sober Kingsters and do that with the title.
Awesome. Who else? What do you got, guys? Go ahead. Blind Dancer, go for it.
So we were sitting there in the competition last year, and listening to people, and my slave turns to me and says, "We could do that." And I'd always wanted to do that because a title is a way of standing up in front of your community and saying, "I'd like to serve. I'm going to take this time and tell you what I'm good at, tell you what I could teach," because the Master Slave title is a teaching title. And for the community to think about how you could fit in and possibly to give you a title. And I was so excited because I would always wanted to do that, to find a way of being involved in that. But I never thought Touch Goddess be willing to do that. And when she said that she thought we could do it, I agreed with her and we ran with it. And for me, it's very special because a lot of the ways we normally have into our community involve being able to see. And standing up as a contestant in the title competition was a way that I could say, hey guys, I think I have a, hey everyone, I think I have a way of contributing that actually was something that I could approach in a way that volunteering and say being a dungeon monitor, which just wasn't going to work for me, wouldn't be.
Gotcha. Okay. Castle Shy, go for it.
So I actually initiated us running for the title. It was something that from the second I entered the community and saw the current title holder of the year, that I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to expand and help create that community connection that I had seen the title holders doing, as well as I grew up in a small little town. I grew up in Pueblo, and we have a community, but we don't have the exposure that the community down here requires to actually grow and thrive. And I wanted to be able to help utilize the title to help give them that exposure and maybe give a more safe place here in Pueblo so that it's not as underground and as hidden as it is right now.
So my answer to this is back in, my slave started talking about this back in 2016, and was like very busy with college, very busy. Our life was a bit hectic at the time, and it's like we'll do it. And she basically pointed at it and said, "Daddy, I want this." And I said, "Okay, but like we're gonna do this." So we ran back in 2019, and we lost then. And so my slave might have initiated it back then, but when after last year, we watched Moggy and Azrael's title run. And I was like, we're going to do this again. We're going to do it again. We can do it this time.
Isn't it amazing that their title run got both of this year's contestants? Like something about the way they presented got both of us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing is that, you know, visibility for one, exposure for second, is really big for in my reason as well. My reason initially starting off wasn't as, I don't know, as grand, I would think. Honestly, I had a friend that was like, "Oh, I'm going to run for this title." And I was like, "Oh, I could probably kick your ass. So let me run for that title too." And it was just like a little bit of friendly competition. And I was like, "Oh," but as soon as I really sat down with myself and started to think, why go through the process and how much work that it would take to win a title. Visibility was important for me as well. I think it's important for non-binary people to be represented. I think it's important for people of color to be represented. And there's not a lot of spaces where we are. And so that became the fuel to my fire to run for this competition. And even though, not winning, I feel like I was able to represent my community well. And I'm going to take what I've learned from this experience and carry it forward. And so what I would like to know from you all is, we are talking about visibility and exposure and whatnot like that, but can that be accomplished without a title? Go for it.
So, I mean, as someone, and to be clear, Touch Goddess and I did not win. Master Castle and Slave Shire are the title holder elect for the Master Slave title this year. But yes, absolutely. What was shocking to us, we didn't get the title, but I'm not sure we didn't win, because there were all these people who came up to us afterwards talking about how what we'd done running had touched their lives and how it had affected things and all these connections we've gotten. I'd like to say that the contest is for the contestants. It's your way to stand up in front of the community and make connections and give people something to think about. The title itself is for the community, because the community needs a single representative and stuff like that. But you can absolutely win. You can absolutely reach out and build connections and get visibility just by running. And of course, there are ways of doing that without running as well. I mean, you can go offer to teach classes, volunteer at events, run events, that sort of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, John says you are all winners just by putting yourselves out there and taking the stage. And I couldn't agree anymore. Like I think we all walked away with something from this experience, and I think it was a beautiful thing. Jeff, you had something to add.
Yeah, so I think the two most important questions you got to ask yourself when you're running for a title is, can I do this without the title? And am I prepared to lose? Because that's very important to ask yourself. You got to know, if you're not prepared to lose, then you might not want to run for the title, because you need to check yourself and find out what your real motivation is for running for it. Same with do you need the title to do the stuff that you are going to do in the community? I didn't have a title when I started doing the things that I do in the community, and I will be doing those same things even when this title run is over. I am very passionate about being of service to this community, and so I don't really feel that a title is what makes you want to do these things, but it does give you a platform to bring attention to specific things if that's what you would like to do.
Right. Exactly. Go for it, y'all.
So it is entirely possible to do whatever you want to do without a title. However, it can be considerably more difficult. We live in Pueblo, Colorado. There is not the best presence down here. And being able to drive to the Springs and Denver can be difficult and cost quite a bit. So,
Yeah.
but absolutely, like Jeff said, you can do whatever and it wouldn't change everything that we've done.
Yeah, I personally couldn't agree more with what Jeff said. I have been advocating for the Pueblo community since I had joined the community, and doing as many things as I can to build the bridges between the communities since joining. But it does give you a platform and the connections that you may not get otherwise. That does make things a little easier sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there is a significance in bearing that title. And a lot of it is just the power of networking that comes with it. There's obviously you can go to different events and you can network with people and meet people, but when you have that title, people gravitate to you, and that's just one of the benefits of having the title. I know for me personally, one of the things that I wanted to do is I obviously have this channel where we talk about kink and BDSM, but even trying to get people to come onto the show sometimes can be a little bit of a hurdle, where I feel like having the title would open a doorway. And so we can have more educational conversations. We could have more dynamic conversations. We can have people that are more well-known, in the community, carry their messages through these avenues. And so that is a big significance in bearing that title. But now that, this is going to go towards Jeff, Castle, and Shy. Now that you have that title, now that you have that privilege and that power, what are you going to do it? What's the first, let's just start off small. What's the first thing that you have done or you are going to do with the title? Go for it.
I'd love to take this first. So the very first thing we did after we got the title was we went out to a sushi restaurant right by the hotel and celebrated.
Yes. Yeah.
As far as our first major events moving forward, they're going to be Pride. We're kind of keeping everything small and doing smaller education events right now, because as title holder elects rather than full title holders until July, when Smoggy and Azrael have completed their run, we're kind of keeping things a little more, the focus still on them a little bit more than our title year at this point.
I love that you're honest, and they're like, we went and got sushi. Yeah, yeah. I would be doing the same thing. I'd be like, yeah, let's go party. Like, right. Jeff, what do you have in store for us?
So the first thing I did is last weekend I was at IML. I went there this year purely for mostly research, just kind of getting my bearings about what's going to take place next year. And then coming back here, basically, I'm preparing next week to go down to represent in Colorado Springs Pride and supporting the local community. I've never had the opportunity to go down there and be part of that pride, so I'm excited to see everyone in the southern part of the state. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm just kind of focusing on what's next. What do we need to do moving forward, and getting my bearings.
Awesome. Like, and anybody who has not taken the chance to go to Colorado Springs Pride should. I helped organize that Pride Fest for 5 years when I lived there. And what they're doing with it is absolutely phenomenal. And in the wake of, the Club Q shooting that happened last November, I think we all need to focus in on smaller communities like Pueblo, like Colorado Springs. It's important to be represented, represent and be active there as well. Also, side note, Master Leo says hi. So, first thing to do after winning, hashtag butt stuff, says John. So, I agree. I would be on that boat too. Yeah, I mean, it's really important to I think that's one thing that people are watching is like, what are you going to do with your title year? Because there have been, unfortunately, people in the past that they win the title and then you may not see them, or they kind of slip out of sight from the community. And so, what are you going to do if there's, any big goal? Like blind dancer for you and me, we're a little bit different. We didn't win the competition. What are your plans? What are you going to do?
So I'm kind of working on that a little bit because in some ways I have more options. Or Touch Goddess and I have more options because we didn't win. If we'd won, there's kind of an expected path you're supposed to go, and there's a sense in which it's about doing things what the community needs. But for example, now we can focus a little bit on what we like to do in service to the community. So it's changing our class lineup a little bit. I have a couple of classes that are being reviewed for some national conferences. I'd really love to turn our presentation that we gave at CLF, which was on manifesting your desires, into a full 90-minute class. I don't know where would be a good venue to teach that, but I think it would be a really fun class to offer. I'd love to teach more about relationships and soft skills, about what is MS. We have a class on divine possession and master-slave relationships that we'd love to find a venue for. And I also really want to do one-on-one work. For me, that's where the real power is, when you actually sit down and change someone's life.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool to see. I had never been to well, actually, no, that's not true. I went to one competition, and that was at MAL this past January. That was like my first in-person exposure to a competition. But watching the Master Slave competition was really eye-opening for me, because I was like, oh, you have to, in some ways, you have to prepare a lot more than maybe the Mr. Leather Colorado competition with the presentation aspect of it. How did you all come up with the ideas for your presentation, and how long did it take you to construct that idea? Either of you can feel free to jump in.
Here, we can start. So, we chose to do a class on neurospicy relationships.
Neurospicy is the term of the year, by the way. I love it.
Thank you. I'm afraid we did not coin that, so can't take credit for it. But we are both neurodivergent individuals in a relationship, so we based it off of our own personal experiences. My Slave here has taken psychology classes at the university, as well as can get a little hyper focused on subjects at times, and has gone down more than a few rabbit holes on the internet learning about neurodivergence. And we basically took what we have found has helped our relationship and used that to guide where we took the class.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Tatiana and I, we came up with our presentation. It was one of when we said that we thought we could do this last year. We sat down to figure out whether that was true, and so we tried outlining 4 or 5 different classes, some of which we've actually taught as full classes, to basically see if we could do it. And one of them was on, we were like, could we actually put together a class on getting what you want out of life? And we found that in 5 minutes, we were able to outline enough points for a full class. And so we're quite certain we could do a 10-minute presentation of it. Our approach is a little bit different. A lot of people teach classes on how to deal with challenges. And that's a really important part of who we as a community are, is that we do work on that kind of thing. But Touch Goddess and I are actually, we want to teach about skills that are useful no matter where you are in the journey. Because when things are going really well and you're really happy, that's the time to really capitalize on it and to cement that happiness. And there are skills associated with that. And we see a lot of people running around and teaching about how to deal with the challenges, but not as many people teaching in about how to lock in the happiness. And we think that needs to be a big part of how we succeed.
Awesome. I want to read this comment from this is Beast, right? Beast that's watching. I would push back a little, title holders. Please don't spend your title year doing things just because they're expected of you or you think the community wants you to. Absolutely do what you love and what you are passionate about. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I think even I mentally have fallen into that trap of like, now that I've run and I didn't win, like, what are people expecting me to do? What is like my next step to do? And that has kind of tripped me up a little bit, like thinking about, because I definitely plan on competing next year. It's tripped me up and thinking like, okay, what is my next step? What should I be doing with myself right now? Like, what are people expecting me to do? And the only thing that I do know how to do is what I do best, which is things like this, and I remember it being one of the questions that I was asked, was like, what do you want to do after you win the title, when I was being judged? And I was like, I want to do more of what I'm currently doing, just maybe on a grander scale. Were there any questions that tripped you up that you all can think of? Because I know that like there was like 2 or 3 that I was just like, oh, I didn't answer that right. No, y'all were perfect. Just me. Go for it, Black.
So for me, what was horrible is that the acoustics were different, and so I couldn't even tell which judge was asking. And I didn't really. I assumed I didn't ask the judges to identify themselves because I assumed by that point I would know all the judges' voices, and I totally did know all the judges' voices, not corrupted by a microphone. And so the first question basically was from this voice from the sky that, I didn't even know who it was, basically asking, why do you think you're going to be successful at what you're doing? And I interpreted that as confrontational rather than as an opportunity. And I never quite managed to use good techniques for resetting your emotional interaction with interrogation.
There is that element of it. There is that element of, where is this person coming from? Are they trying to catch me off my guard? Are they curious, like seriously curious and wanting to know the answer to this question? I know it definitely tripped me up. I was like, oh, And those are the things that you can't always necessarily prepare for. It's just like reading people, right? Because sometimes I think in my preparation, I was more focused on what are all the possible questions that could be asked versus where is this person coming from? What's their
Right.
mentality and their positioning?
I will say that I've watched a number of contest interviews, and that's the thing that I didn't realize how different it would be being up on stage than being in the audience for the interview. I know that sounds stupid in retrospect, but it's certainly
Oh
true.
no, it's not stupid. Like we're so used to being observers that like when you're actually in the hot seat, it's completely different. It's completely different. Yeah.
I think
Uh,
I think one of my biggest challenges during my interview was Master Leo asked me, "What are you going to do different than what you already do now?" And I got a little hung up at first for that because the things that I was throwing out, he pointed out that I'm already doing that. So I had to take a step back, take a breath, and kind of think about the question and think about how I was going to move forward with that. And it's kind of like you guys just talked about, like it's a lot different when you're standing up on that stage and you're standing in front of a panel. You don't. When I was prepping for these questions, my answers were flowing, but you don't flow as smoothly when you're like under the spotlight.
no. And like then it begs the question too, I think I'm like should I be doing something like if I'm good at what I do and I want to do it even better than how I'm doing it now, like do I need to do something different? Like I don't know. How did you overcome that question?
Well, I kind of take the approach that we can always improve. Like, even when you're doing something well, there's probably something that you could improve. But I just had to think about that and think, well, what would I do different? How will I expand from here? So, I mean, it kind of goes with why I said that I ran for the title to begin with. I like to be challenged. I like to think outside of the box. And so I don't remember exactly how my answer went because, it's kind of a whirlwind when you're up there on stage.
Oh yeah, it's a
But I think it
blur.
was good. I think it was a good way to challenge me to think about how I would approach that problem, um, and move forward. So
Yeah. Like you said, I also spent a great deal of time, preparing myself for whatever possible questions could be answered. For people that are curious about competing, what did your preparations look like? When did they begin? When did you decide that you wanted to run for this title and start your preparations?
I can jump in. So
Good.
I knew I was going to run for this title about a year ago. I didn't really tell anyone. My household knew about it, maybe a couple close friends. And so I just started slowly picking away at what I was going to do to prepare. So there is a book from Guy Baldwin. I think that Hades read this as well.
I sure
I'm
did.
a reader of I have a lot of books back here from the leather community and leather history, stuff like that. That's one of my hobbies, just to read that stuff in general. So I went ahead and read that book, kind of got a general idea. I did have a title in 2007, so I generally kind of knew what I was in for, which was a little different than the first time I ran. I didn't even really know what a leather title was, so the whole thing was kind of a whirlwind. Um, but I think the real preparation started about 3 months before the actual event. That's when I started reaching out to people that I know that have been judges before, past title holders. I started getting advice from a lot of them, a lot of friends. I went out to a lot of dinners and kind of had long conversations with these people. Um, and then I started sitting down and like planning out. So I have a spreadsheet of like the outfits I was going to wear. And I kind of just slowly started picking away at the areas that I needed. My speech was written months in advance, but I gutted the whole thing and switched it up probably 3 weeks out. So that one was a little terrifying. Luckily, I'm decent at memorizing things, but I sat down with someone. So Brett Hines, he was a title holder here in 2010. He took, I believe, fourth place at IML. Um, and so I reached out to him, and when I kind of told him about my speech, in a nice way, he told me that's trash. And so, which was good. It made me sit down and rethink about it. So that's why I gutted it and kind of went from there. But I think that was just it. It got more and more real as we got closer to it. But I
Yeah.
think even the day of, we were preparing. Like I was still doing things. I think my family, so my two partners, they could recite my speech to me probably better than I could recite it myself. They heard it so goddamn much. So
Nice. I'm floored by the fact you had a spreadsheet for your outfits. Like that's
So that's
pretty
the
cool.
advice that I got from like IML contestants. They told me that that was a very helpful for them because then you can have your handlers look at your spreadsheet and you don't have to worry about missing things. Like they had that. So Seth Cannon was my handler. He was amazing. Um, it actually helped me out because if it was my husband, we would have got into it. We tend to in those kind of situations. So having someone that wasn't like one of my partners was very helpful. And so it gave him a chance that he could look at that and immediately know like what the plan was. And so I have to admit that the people that kind of pointed that out to me, that was brilliant because it just took the stress off of, are we missing something?
Nice. Master Castle, you were going to add something.
Yes, similar to Jeff, our preparation started literally at the contest last year. When we saw Moggy and Azrael, we were like, I made the decision that we are going to do it next year. We tried once before, we're going to do it, and we're going to win. And so it was about the same for you.
Yeah, I think our prep kind of more mainly consisted of just sitting down, and we were kind of in a unique position having run once before. So we looked over the judges' notes again from the previous time because we hadn't looked at them since 2019. And we looked at what we had done and where we thought we needed to improve and how we wanted to go about doing it this time. So that was a lot of where our prep was.
One other thing that we did was set up mock interviews. Like, likewise, you can be as fluid as you can when the questions are generated by you and you have the time to think of the answers. But when you're live on the fly and somebody asks you a question, that is really where you can get some prep.
Oh yeah. My mock interview like almost had me in tears. Like it was rough. Like I luckily picked people I my handler Hunter and Chris Newell who assisted in my mock interview, who is a previous Mr. Leather Colorado. They grilled me, and I was like, "Oh, I was planning on doing this shit on the fly. That is not going to work." So yes, preparation. My personal preparation, I think, started about three months before the event. I wrote my speech maybe a month and a half before the event, and like Jeff, I went through one version, and my handler was like, "This is complete garbage. You can do better," and then went through and rewrote, which I'm glad that I did. But on the subject of handlers, like, because this was new to me, like, I didn't realize how important having a handler was. How do you go about finding those people, choosing the correct handler for you, and what does it really do to change your preparation? Go for it, Shai.
So
Our handler, it was kind of a no-brainer choice for us. My best friend and girlfriend has handled us as we've presented in different classes and situations leading up to this. And so it was like, well, do you want to take this one on too? And she lovingly obliged dealing with us and our nightmare that was preparation and everything. I think really when it comes down to picking a handler, one of the most important things is somebody who is familiar with you and who might be familiar with some of the quirks, because then they're able to kind of mitigate some of those for you so that you don't get stuck in your own brain weasels.
Yeah. Blind answer.
yeah, so we basically looked at our list of friends, and well, then we outlined what we needed in a handler, which for us, um, because of the spiritual nature of our dynamic and because of the energy work we do, we can sometimes feed each other. And when we're feeding each other positive things, that's great. But when we're feeding each other stress, that's not so great. And so we needed a handler who would be organized, we're pretty organized ourselves, but who would be able to work with our organization and who would be able to diffuse our stress and give us our moment to vent and then say, yeah, but that doesn't matter, you can't solve it, move on. And so we looked at which of our friends would be able to do that, and we didn't realize until or well no, I think we were vaguely aware that our handler was a professional project manager, but we did not fully realize I didn't fully realize what that meant until the minutes of the first handler meeting came out for me to review later.
Nice.
But yeah, we had like 5 or 6 spreadsheets: the spreadsheet of the outfits, the spreadsheet of the time, for everything. But I mean, we basically just we looked at our list and found and what we needed in a handler based on who we were, and found the person who was most likely to do that, and then approached them, and then worked with them until they were able to say yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, picking it my handler. I picked my handler. I think fairly last minute, but it was a person that my friend that I said I wanted to do the competition that I wanted to compete against, because I was like, I know that he's going to lead me on the right track because he wanted this too, and he's not somebody who's going to lie to me. He's very very blunt, very blunt, and so I needed somebody who was going to be honest with me and give me critiques and not sugarcoat things. Like, I just work better with like that. I mean, there were moments where I'm just like, oh, stop being so hard on me. But I mean, I think it was all for the better. And so, thinking about next year, because I won't have the same handler because they will most likely be competing against me. It's something that I think about, like, who's the right person for this job. B says, pro tip: the Marco Polo app is a secret weapon for preparation for interview and pop questions. I know that I bombed my pop question. I think I started off fairly strong answering it, and then I bombed it at the end. So it definitely threw me off. But moving on here. Sorry, let me look at I'm like looking at my list of questions, and I'm like, where are we at? Because I started to go down a tangent. Oh yeah, what was the most difficult part about competing for you all? Go ahead for a blind answer.
The silent auction, that just scares the heck out of me.
Oh my god, yeah.
Because were we actually going to find people in the community who are willing to help us, and just that whole culture. But I'm actually wearing a shirt that I won from someone in the South Plains Leatherfest silent auction, from someone I really respect. So I'm starting to understand why the silent auctions are such an important part of our community. I mean, basically what it is it's a complicated pyramid scheme to fund travel for the title holders, where basically the community puts in items in one side, and that sort of funds it, and also goes around and buys those items on the other side. And so it's a way to move around items that have potentially interesting history, and support your title community and build title holders and build a closer knit community. And I had no idea that it had all those complicated emotional connotations until I started really thinking about it.
Nice.
But it's scary trying to find items, and especially going up and asking people, will you donate to my thing even though I might not win?
Yeah. I mean, I found out, I glazed over the part of the email when it was like, bring your silent auction items. And then like a couple days before the event, they were like, silent auction. I'm like, what silent auction? So like, I was definitely taken off by that because my reading and comprehension skills aren't the best. But Jeff, you were going to throw something in there.
Yeah. So for me, I think the most difficult part of the competition was at being on stage in a jock at 11 in the morning in a cold conference room with no music, no nothing. So that was very challenging. It was very awkward. It was, I didn't know what to do with myself up there, to be honest. It was, had I had music, I think it would have been like a world of difference.
Right. I was expecting there to be music or something.
Oh, yeah. So like at IML, they'll ask like the pop question during that or something like that, and I think that would have been helpful because it would have gave us something to just kind of work with up there. So that was just challenging for me. It was um, I'm very comfortable in my skin, so I didn't mind being up there in a jock. I didn't mind any of that. It was more of just what should I do with myself while I'm up here. So yeah.
Yeah, there was some awkward silence, and then somebody was like twerk, and I'm like, to what? So it's not gonna happen. So, Master
Yeah, I
Castle
think
Slay Shy, do you have anything to add?
Yes, certainly. So, what I find to be the most difficult overall in general is standing up on that stage, looking out at a sea of faces with the lights shining in your face, and trying to be able to focus on what it is you're supposed to be talking about as you're
Mm-hmm.
being blinded. This time specifically, it was certainly giving the presentation on stage instead of in a classroom setting. It completely threw off how we were planning on doing things. It took away from the plans and preparation we had made, and we kind of had to do it on the fly.
I think personally, my biggest thing was just overcoming my own self doubts and not letting like what I perceived as a fumble to overcome and just be like, this is who I am, and they're going to love me or they're going to hate me regardless.
Right, absolutely. Leo says the jock round was so rough. If I felt so bad that you didn't have music. Um, um, I'm gonna butcher your name, dear. I'm sorry, Mahalia.
Mahalia.
Mahalia, they look so good up there. So glad didn't miss that. Yes. Yeah, like there's definitely some quirks during during the entire competition. There were some quirks and there were some hiccups, and I think that everybody handled it so well. And I felt so bad that y'all didn't have your PowerPoint, because I know that you were up there with little sheets of paper and you were doing the best that you possibly can. So, but you pulled it out at the end.
Yeah,
So,
that was something else.
oh yeah. I think one of the most difficult parts of the competition for me was like learning the judges. Like everyone told me beforehand, you need to go like find out as much as you possibly can about your judges. And so I'm like, okay, trying to like Facebook stalk people, and like I ended up getting the wrong people, and I was like, oh, this is not my judge. This is not who I thought it was going to be. But like during like the judging, well, during the competition, was there anything in particular that you all learned from the judges about yourself or about what you could do better? Go for it, Shay.
I think the biggest thing that I have learned standing up in front of panels of judges is that even though that these individuals are judging you, they still want to see you do your best. They still want to see you succeed.
Awesome. Yeah, I gathered that from most of the judges. I mean, I had an awkward encounter with one of the judges. I won't say who it is, but I had an awkward encounter with one of the judges mid competition. They're like, "Hey, if you don't win," I'm like, "What do you mean if I don't win?" I'm like, oh, maybe not say that. But yeah, no. I mean, I think I'm really excited, and I know that we talked about this before the show. It was like receiving the judges' critiques and the scoring and stuff like that. I've yet to gone through my packet of stuff like that, but I really want to learn. It's good to see yourself from an outside perspective, because sometimes we get so caught up in our own heads and we think about our own performance that we don't see the good and what can be improved. Were there any other like notes that you took away from the judges, y'all?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll say something. So I think the one thing that that was being told was to have fun. I have a tendency to be hard on myself, so I got into a mindset of just wanting to give it my all. That sometimes I probably could have had a little more fun than I did. I did read my comments from the judges, and one of the biggest things I took from that is so when I do struggle with public speaking, and so I really that's a challenge for me. and I tried to give my speech in a way that I felt like I was talking to the audience, but it also kind of came across as I was pacing a little. And so I think that was good for me because it opened the conversation of more walking on that stage with purpose. So if you're addressing the left side of the stage, make sure when you walk to the right side of the stage, you have purpose. It goes with the speech. It looks more than you're just kind of going back and forth and kind of just like being fidgety. Which is good for me because when I gave a speech when I graduated from the community college, and if you ever find that on YouTube, you'll have a good laugh because I completely bombed that speech. And so it was good to hear that feedback. I think that if you all get a chance to read your feedback, I think it was great. It was good to hear what they had to say, and it's kind of like what Hades said about hearing from an outside perspective. So
Go for it, blind answer.
Yeah, so I think the thing that amazed me is how interesting the judges were, and like I connected with most of them, and got to hear a little bit of their story, and it was really cool to think about what all they were bringing and all the different perspectives that were being brought to the community. I know there was a little bit of nervous in the master slave community because we've had um, typically, in the past it was a separate contest, and so the judges were people who were in the MS community. And there was, I think, a little bit of worry about how it was going to work with a joint judging panel. I will admit I'm a little bit nervous if I ever do win. How am I going to judge the jockstrap round for a leather contest? But we'll come. I hope we have that challenge someday of figuring out how to do that, and I have some ideas. But I will say that it worked really well, and I think it was cool to have judges from all over the place bringing their perspectives to the contests, and I was really impressed with the judging panel and their dedication and their encouragement. One from our standpoint, the judges made it clear that they weren't telling us to go away, even though they didn't give us a title. They were telling us, that they were encouraging us and helping us move forward.
Yeah. And I think that's great. And that's why I'm glad that everyone is here. Well, I mean, Touch Goddess isn't here, but like I know that she wanted to be here. But like
she's not here. She's at work.
Yeah. I think it's important for us to continue to show up and to be present within the community, even if whether win or lose, there's so much important work that needs to be done. Being up there on stage and being judged isn't the most delightful thing in the world. So what would you say is your personal highlight of the competition? Like, what was your favorite thing to do?
I'll talk about that. So, I think one of the highlights, in all honesty, was getting to know all of you. I think me and Hades actually bonded really well during the contest. We knew each other before the contest, but I honestly, truly felt like it brought us closer. And then not only that, but the support that I got from the community that was outside of the contest was phenomenal. And I guess I didn't really realize I didn't realize how many people were in support of me. So that was heart touching, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think we got closer. And for me, like, I think what I walked away with was I get so like pigeonholed into like the gay community. I'm just like the cis gay community that I don't get the opportunity to meet other kinksters outside of that. And so it was really nice to meet all of you and start to make connections outside of that, because we need the full community together in order to make certain progresses. What were some of y'all's other highlights?
Personally, a highlight not only was meeting everybody and getting to see the support, but I've never been one for public speaking. I've always been super nervous on stage, which is crazy thinking about the fact that I've wanted to run for a title. But come the speeches and pop question and introduction, I actually just there was something in my brain that just kind of snapped and was like, we're going to do this, and whatever happens, happens. And I got up there, and the nerves were just not something that I experienced. And that was the first time I got on stage without being nervous.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
So for me, one of the main highlights from the contest was giving our speeches. So we had our speeches separate from one another, particularly because we didn't want to get used to each other's speech, and so our reactions on stage were much more genuine. Hearing it for the first time and being able to hear what each of us wrote about one another.
Yeah, we never actually performed our speeches in front of each other.
Really?
Yeah, that was the first time
Aw,
our speeches.
that is so adorable. Blind answer.
So yeah, so I have to agree. Getting to meet all of you and the fact that we're here and supporting each other is so amazing. I'm really looking forward to working with you, and I will certainly to Jeff and Hades. Um, I would love to get more involved in the gay community, and I would love to find ways that you can get more involved in some of the rest of the community. But I want to particularly call out a highlight. So you know, after the contest, we're walking up on stage to congratulate Master Castle and Slave Shy, and they stop and they want to talk to us about something about that that affected us. They basically took time out of their whole thing to say, "Hey, you guys matter. We want you to be successful too, and we want to work together to make some things right." And I just, I was, it was just, it really helped that we were part of a community and that they wanted to work with us and that they wanted to make sure that we were treated right, and that they were willing to take the time at that moment, while everyone was coming out congratulating them, to do that. Thank you.
Y'all are gonna make me all emotional and shit. I was not expecting
Right? I'm
that.
trying not to go.
Like we and B says it, like, absolutely love how this title class connected and bonded, and I do think that we connected and bonded, and so I'm an emotional slut. I said this before. But no, I want everyone to be successful. And I think what was important for me to get everyone together to do this live stream is that everything that we said on stage matters, and more people need to hear those messages, and we need to be more visible. And so if I can use my platform to do that, I absolutely, we are going to kick ass in whatever we do in the future. And I think that, when someone has a fundraiser, we will show up. When somebody has an event that's, coming up, we will show up. We are just going to be that class. So yeah. Thank you all for that. Let me get my shit together here. Whew. Thinking about the future and thinking about what's coming next. Does anybody, Jeff, you said that so next year you're going to run for, during IML. Is anybody else got prospects of running for titles in the future? Yes.
We certainly already have our prospects laid out in front of us. After our year as the Colorado title holders, we will run for Southwest. And should we win the Southwest competition, a year later we will run for International Master Slave.
That's the MS title track.
Awesome. No. But there's one problem with that. We talked about this in the dressing room. You guys have to win Southwest.
Yes. Yes. I know that I'm definitely gonna run for Mr. Leather Colorado. There was another title that I was looking at. Um, I was kind of going back and forth in my head. Like, do I want to run for Leatherman of Color, which will happen in Chicago, I think in January or February, or did I want to keep on the track for Mr. Leather Colorado? And I think I've come to the decision like I just want to stick with home base. I think there's a lot more work that I can do with this title. Um, but who knows? You know, there are other titles out there that like kind of pique my interest, and but for now, like Mr. Leather Colorado is my track. So I'm gonna be coming for that sash, Jeff.
I look forward to seeing you up on that stage.
Yes, it's gonna be fun. So I'm looking through like just again for everyone who's watching. This is a live Q&A. So if you all have questions for any of these folks up here, please put them in the comments and we will read them off. But what is next? What are your long-term plans to do work in the community?
I'll go with that. So, so one thing that my daddy said I could do was create a travel plan and have the most of this year. I may have gone a little overboard, but that's why you don't leave a boy unattended. And so I did have fun with it. I do have a lot of travel coming up, but more locally, I've already talked about a few fundraisers that we will be doing. There more than likely will be a fundraiser that's going to happen in July for the foundation. And I want to try to put together, and this goes for everyone on this panel. I'm looking at the youth. So I want to do something for the youth, preferably trans youth. And so I don't know what that looks like yet. I am totally in the brainstorming like phase of putting that fundraiser together, but I am all hands on deck. So anyone that wants to reach out to me, please reach out to me and let's make this happen, because right now our trans community is under fire and we need to do something to help them. And I feel like the youth is that's huge for me. I didn't have a lot of support when I was younger. I found myself out on the streets at the age of 16, so it's near and dear to my heart to help the youth. And so yeah, I think that's where I want to start from here and kind of go from there. So
Awesome. Yeah, I will support you in that, and we can have a conversation here in the next week or so. Just I've already got some ideas to work with trans youth, so let's buddy up on that.
that sounds great.
Anyone else future plans?
I think, as far as our future plans go, right now they consist of a lot of just education. We've always been very passionate about educating the community and giving back to the community who's given so much to us. Eventually, we would like to look at hosting our own events as well as possibly having our own community space, but that is really far down the road. So,
At the moment, one of the things we want to be able to do is move forward with an online platform and be able to share our educational classes with a much wider base rather than having to travel and teach at whatever small location or larger location we can get to.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's blind answer.
So, as I mentioned kind of in my speech, one of my journey right now is trying to figure out what does it look like to be blind in this community and to accept my differences rather than just trying to fit into the mold that's there for everyone. Like, and so I did some work on conference accessibility that was useful to some people. And I'm going to start, looking at some accessibility work. I don't want to just be known as the blind guy. But I've realized that I have an important voice there, and I still want to be doing the happiness and work that is the happiness and building love work that has been dear to Touch Goddess and I since we got together. But I've realized I also need to have a voice in talking about um, what it's like when you're so marginalized that you don't even count as one of the marginalized communities. Because honestly, if I'm there, I might be overrepresenting the blind community as it stands in the kink community to a certain extent. Um, And yeah, are there changes that I would like to see made? I mean, as an example of one that I'm starting to look at, I realized that when I am in a dungeon, that there's not a good way for a blind person to call for a DM's attention on a non-urgent matter. I'm pretty sure that if I start screaming Mayday, red, 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 that I'll get some attention real quickly. But for example, I was in a scene and a toy just happened to roll away, and I couldn't chase after it without possibly running through someone else's scene. And if I were sighted, I probably wouldn't have needed help. But if I were sighted, it would have been easy to get a dungeon master's attention. And so I'm actually starting to look at things like that. How can we change the community, not just to make it more welcoming to me, but as we learn the process of making the community more welcoming, there are skills that will be available for the next person, even if they're totally different than I am.
That's awesome. That's so freaking cool. Like, there's just things that we don't, like our privileges prevent us from seeing and, like calling attention to. Like, I think all of us are doing work in like that in some way. And it's important, like things that people don't think of and that need to be brought to mind. So, sorry. Beast asks for. Let me read this. My reading comprehension skills are not the greatest. For Jeff, Castle, and Shy, you both ran before. Was it different with this? What was different about this contest? Both what was better and what did you miss from the last one?
I'll run with that. So this one, I actually knew what I was doing. This one was different in the regards of I have a lot more passion for this community and what these titles mean. I'm the type of person that can cry at a speech. At IML, they just do the opening credits of all the title holders over the year, and I tear up. I have so much respect for the title holders and this community that I am honored to be part of this. And so that's so different than when I ran for my first title. As far as like what was the question? What did you miss from the last one? So the last one was a sexual title. It was kind of fun to perform a fantasy on stage. So that was fun. That was different. It sounds fun in theory. I don't know. It was also stressful. So I guess I would miss that if I was to throw anything out there.
Okay. Castle Shy?
I think that at least the thing for me that was better about the way the contest was run this time was the fact that with it being all squished together in one day rather than it being stretched out over 2 days, I didn't have as much time to get stuck in my head when I felt like I fumbled because I had to just move on to the next thing. Like I didn't have time to really focus on what I perceived as a mistake. So that was better, at least personally. The thing that I think was worse or not for the better about the way that the contest was done this time is just the lack of bios on the contestants. I didn't feel as able to connect. Like, I'm glad we connected as a class like we have, but I didn't feel as able to reach out and connect with everybody without having a little bit of information about everyone going into it. Where when we ran in 2019, we had a bit of information about Beast and Echo, and we were able to feel comfortable reaching out and having that conversation. And we sat down for drinks beforehand, and it opened up a little bit more of that camaraderie system earlier on than it did this time.
For myself.
Yeah, no, I was sitting there going, would it be reasonable for me to email Master Castle and Slave Shy and say hi even beforehand, but I don't even know what they're like. I don't know whether that would be considered presumptuous, whether, right, not having that context up front made it a lot harder to start that connection rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Then for myself, one of the things that was different this year than last year was having to give our presentation, having to give our class on stage. Like I said before, the lights being in your face, looking out at a sea of people, it's a lot more difficult than being in a classroom setting with individuals who want to be there and are lined up in a much more easy to manage fashion, being able to have your PowerPoint presentation and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by this comment. um, the Leo says Beyond Piercing is happy to donate for fundraisers, so keep that in your bag of tools, y'all. And then Beast drops the link um, for it. So make sure y'all check that out in the comments. We are a little bit over an hour and 10 minutes. So what we're gonna do now is just I want everybody to just take a few minutes to express, we kind of talked a little bit about what we're going to be doing in the future, but if you have something that you want to plug or promote, we'll just go around the circle and plug it, and then we'll wrap up. So Jeff, go ahead and kick us off.
Well, of course, we have Mile High Fisters. So Mile High Fisters meets at the Eagle on the first Saturday of every month at 8 p.m. Come out and meet the fisting community. It's open to everyone. And then we will have our next play party on July 22nd. This is a pansexual event open for everybody in the community. And the other big event that I would like to plug is Back Alley Denver. It'll be on August 26th, 27th. It is Denver's large fetish fair that's at Trade. We take over the Trade parking lot at the bar. There will be vendors. There will be live demos and tasters. There will be a chance drawing, chances to win cool things. And we have all the community organizations that come out and participate. So come out and see us.
Awesome. Blind Dancer.
Sure. I guess I think I'm still putting together venues for some of the classes I will be teaching. You can follow me on FET to find those as I find places to present those. Blind Dancer on FET. If you are out there and looking to get into the community or in the Denver area, I'm one of the co-hosts of Denver Munch. We meet on the second Friday of every month at IHOP. You can find that event on FetLife as well. In addition to writing or teaching and writing about nonfiction, I also write about alternative sexuality and basically write fiction that's about causing you to think differently about sex and intimacy. My most recent book is free for the next couple of days at immortalitycurse.com. So that's what I have to plug.
Awesome. And real quick before we move on to Castle and Shy, Jeff, can you repeat the date for the play party?
That is July 22nd. It'll be at Studio Friction, and you can always get any of that information at milehighfisters.com. And I believe that Beast put that link as well in the chat.
Yes. And Master Castle and Slave Shy.
I'm going to take off with this real fast because I want to plug the P3 class at Voodoo Leatherworks, which happens every first Tuesday of the month from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And it is taught by my Slave Shy, as well as our other house member, Mahalia, or Bunny, who's currently in the comment section. I love you.
We also would like to plug Colorado Little Scouts Troop 151. Currently, we've been in a hiatus because I'm dealing with after end-of-life care for some family members, but we are working on getting restarted, as well as the Southwest MS contest that happens the weekend, I believe, of July 24th and 25th. And then Pueblo Pride, which happens August 20th.
Awesome. And for those who are watching, if you are a kink presenter and you would like to join the live stream, send me a message because we would love to have more kink conversations like this one. I can be reached on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can subscribe to my Just for Fans and send me a message, or send me a message on YouTube. And with that, we are going to wrap up. I'm going to have you all, don't turn off your cameras yet when we end the live stream, but this is the official end of the live stream. I want to thank all of you for your comments. I want to thank all of you for watching and supporting our local kink community here in Denver and Colorado. I should just say Colorado. And until next time, you all have a good night. Say goodbye, everyone.
Farewell.
Have a good one.
Bye.